Your Honor, I think you're confused about something. I looked up from my bench, slowly, the kind of slow that makes lawyers nervous. Confused, Mr. Castellano? He smiled, actually smiled, like he was about to let me in on a secret. This building, the courthouse you're sitting in right now, my company owns 42% of the municipal bonds that paid for it. So technically, he paused for effect. I own this room, and I think we both know how this is going to end. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I've ever heard in 43 years on this bench. What happened in the next 8 minutes didn't just destroy his case. It destroyed everything he thought he knew about power. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got here. The morning started like any other Tuesday. My docket showed 17 cases, all routine. Traffic violations, small claims, the usual parade of people who'd made mistakes and needed to face them. Then I saw the name at the bottom of the list, Castellano versus Rodriguez property dispute. Unlawful eviction, the name Castellano made my clerk look up. That's not the Castellano, is it? I checked the file, it was. Dominic Castellano, real estate developer. Net worth estimated at $6.2 billion. His company, Castellano Holdings, owned half the skyline in our city. Shopping centers, office towers, luxury condominiums. The man had put his name on buildings the way other people sign checks. And he was being sued by someone named Rosa Rodriguez for unlawful eviction. The David versus Goliath setup was obvious. What wasn't obvious was just how badly Goliath was about to fall. Castellano arrived exactly at 9 a.m., I'll give him that. But the way he arrived told me everything I needed to know about the next hour of my life. 3 attorneys entered first. Not one, 3. Each carrying leather briefcases that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. They were followed by 2 assistants with tablets. Then a publicist I recognized from the society pages. And then Dominic Castellano himself. He was 61 but looked 50. Tailored suit that fit like it had been painted on. Shoes so polished I could see the reflection of the courtroom lights. Hair silver gray, styled in that way that's supposed to look casual but costs $300 to achieve. But it was his walk that got me. He didn't walk to his table. He surveyed the room, like a general inspecting troops, like a king entering his throne room. His eyes swept across the gallery, the court reporter, the bailiff, and finally landed on me. He didn't nod, didn't acknowledge, just assessed. I let him get settled. His attorneys arranged themselves around him like a protective barrier. The assistants opened tablets, ready to take notes. The publicist sat in the front row of the gallery, phone in hand. Then I noticed who was sitting in the back, Rosa Rodriguez, 67 years old, according to the file. She wore a floral dress that had been mended in several places. Her hands were weathered, the hands of someone who'd worked their entire life. She carried a single manila folder. No attorney, no assistants, just her. And sitting next to her was a young man in his 20s wearing an army dress uniform. Her grandson I'd learn later. Purple heart on his chest. The contrast was staggering. Mr. Castellano, I said, you're the defendant in this case. Mrs. Rodriguez is alleging that you forcibly evicted her from her apartment of 43 years with only 72 hours notice. Is that correct? One of his attorneys stood. Your Honor, if I may. You may not, I asked Mr. Castellano. Castellano leaned forward. When he spoke, his voice had that smooth quality of someone used to being listened to. Your Honor, what Mrs. Rodriguez calls an eviction, we call necessary property management. The building in question was sold to Castellano Holdings 6 months ago. We have plans for redevelopment. Mrs. Rodriguez was offered fair market value for her relocation. She refused. We exercised our legal right to reclaim the property. Fair market value. I'd seen that phrase destroy 1,000 lives. Mrs. Rodriguez, I said, turning to the elderly woman, you're representing yourself today? She stood slowly with dignity. Yes, Your Honor, I couldn't afford a lawyer, but I don't need one to tell the truth. Her voice had an accent. Spanish, softened by decades in America, but still present, still proud. Tell me about this apartment. I've lived there for 43 years, Your Honor. My husband and I moved in 3 days after we got married. We raised our 3 children there. He died in that apartment, in our bed, holding my hand. Her voice cracked. It's not just an apartment. It's my home. Castellano made a sound. Not quite a laugh. More like a dismissive exhale. I caught it. Mr. Castellano, did you just scoff? No, Your Honor. I just think we need to separate emotion from law here. Mrs. Rodriguez has been offered $75,000 to relocate. That's more than generous for a rent-controlled unit. $75,000 in a city where average rent is $3,000 a month, I said. That buys her 2 years, maybe. Then what? He shrugged. Not my concern, Your Honor. I'm a businessman, not a charity. The honesty was almost refreshing. Almost. Let's talk about the eviction notice, I said. Mrs. Rodriguez claims she received 72 hours notice. Is that accurate? His lead attorney jumped in. Your Honor, the building had been condemned by the city. Had it? I asked. Or did your client file for emergency condemnation based on violations he created after purchasing the building? The attorney's face went pale. We exercised legal channels, answer the question. Did the building have structural violations before your client purchased it? Silence. I'll take that as a no. I pulled out a document from the file. According to the city inspector's report, the building passed full inspection 2 months before Mr. Castellano purchased it. Then suddenly, 3 weeks after the purchase, it's declared unfit for habitation. Interesting timing. Castellano's jaw tightened. First crack in the facade. Mrs. Rodriguez, I continued, where are you living now? With my grandson, Your Honor. Miguel. She gestured to the young man in uniform. He has a 1-bedroom apartment. I sleep on his couch. He tries to give me the bedroom, but she trailed off. Miguel, I addressed the young man. You served in Afghanistan? He stood. Yes, ma'am. 2 tours. And you came home to find your grandmother homeless? Yes, ma'am. I turned back to Castellano. You evicted a war hero's grandmother to build what, exactly? For the first time, Castellano spoke directly to me without his attorney's filtering. Luxury condos. Starting price, $2.4 million. The property value of that neighborhood has increased 400% in the last decade. It's prime real estate being wasted on rent-controlled units that generate minimal revenue. Wasted. That's the word he used. So Mrs. Rodriguez's home, where she raised 3 children, where her husband died, where she's lived for 4 decades, that's a waste of prime real estate. From an economic perspective, yes. The courtroom gasped. Even his attorneys looked uncomfortable. Mr. Castellano, do you know how many people you've evicted in the last 3 years? I don't handle day-to-day operations. 473 families, I said. Reading from a document his attorneys had been forced to provide during discovery. That's 473 Mrs. Rodriguez's. Families displaced so you could build luxury housing for billionaires. He leaned back, completely unfazed. Your Honor, I follow the law. I don't make the rules. I just play the game better than everyone else. This isn't a game, Mr. Castellano. Respectfully, Your Honor, everything is a game, and I'm very good at winning. That's when he made his first critical mistake. He pulled out his phone. Right there at the defendant's table. Started scrolling. Mr. Castellano, put the phone away. He didn't look up. Just one moment, Your Honor. I have a meeting in 30 minutes. You have a meeting in my courtroom right now. Phone, away. He glanced up, irritated. Your Honor, no offense, but my time is extremely valuable. Can we expedite this? I'm willing to increase the offer to $80,000 for Mrs. Rodriguez if we can settle this today. Your time is valuable, I repeated slowly. Very valuable. I bill my consulting time at $10,000 per hour. So every minute here costs me. I don't care if you bill at $1 million per hour. In my courtroom, your time is worth exactly as much as Mrs. Rodriguez's time, which is to say it's valuable because you're both human beings, not because of your bank account. He actually laughed. That's a nice sentiment, Your Honor, but we both know how the world actually works. Second critical mistake. I stood up from my bench. Mr. Castellano, I want you to explain something to me. You said earlier that you own 42% of the municipal bonds that funded this courthouse. Is that correct? He smiled. Here it comes. I could see him thinking. The moment she realizes who she's dealing with. That's correct, Your Honor. And you believe that gives you some kind of authority in this room. I believe it provides perspective. Yes. Let me provide you with some perspective. Mr. Castellano, those bonds, they were issued by the city, paid for by taxpayers. This building belongs to the people, not to whoever holds the debt. You no more own this room than you own the air in it. His smile faltered. Furthermore, I continued, even if you did own every brick in this building, the authority in this room doesn't come from property. It comes from the law. And I am the law's representative here, not you. He opened his mouth to respond. I wasn't finished. You've spent the last 20 minutes demonstrating contempt. Contempt for Mrs. Rodriguez, contempt for this process, and contempt for this court. You checked your phone, you discussed your billing rate, and you suggested that your money makes your time more valuable than a woman who's contributed to this community for 4 decades. Your Honor, I simply meant. I know exactly what you meant. You meant that you're used to buying your way out of inconvenience, that you're used to people deferring to your wealth, that you genuinely believe your $6 billion makes you more important than Rosa Rodriguez. I let that hang in the air. Let me be crystal clear about something. Mr. Castellano, in the outside world, you might be able to buy buildings, buy politicians, buy your way to the front of every line. In here, your money means absolutely nothing. His face reddened. Your Honor, I'm not done. You asked me to expedite this proceeding. I'm going to do the opposite. We're going to examine every single document related to this eviction, every inspection report, every notice, every communication between your company and Mrs. Rodriguez. And if I find even the slightest indication that you manufactured violations to force her out, I'm going to do something your money can't fix. Silence. What's that? He asked, his voice tight. I'm going to find you in contempt, fine you the maximum amount allowed by law, and refer this case to the district attorney for investigation into fraud. And Mr. Castellano, unlike the politicians you're used to buying, prosecutors love high-profile cases. His lead attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, my client has done nothing illegal. Then he has nothing to worry about. I opened the case file. Let's start with the inspection report from March 15th. The one that suddenly found 12 code violations in a building that had passed inspection 60 days prior. For the next 45 minutes, I walked through every document, and with each one, the picture became clearer. Castellano had purchased the building specifically to evict the rent-controlled tenants. He'd hired an inspector who owed him favors, filed false reports, issued eviction notices that violated city law. And when Mrs. Rodriguez refused to leave, he'd had the water shut off to her unit, claiming emergency repairs. All of it documented, all of it illegal. By the time I finished, Castellano's attorneys were whispering urgently among themselves. His publicist had left the courtroom, and the man himself sat rigid, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. Mr. Castellano, I said, I'm ruling in favor of Mrs. Rodriguez. You will restore her to her apartment immediately. You will pay for her temporary housing during this displacement. And you will pay her $50,000 in damages for the illegal eviction. Your Honor, I'm not finished. I'm also fining you personally $100,000 for contempt of court. Your phone usage, your dismissive attitude, and your statement about owning this room constitute clear contempt. His face went purple. $100,000 for checking my phone? No, Mr. Castellano. $100,000 for forgetting that wealth doesn't grant you immunity from basic decency and respect. I picked up the inspection reports. Furthermore, I'm referring this entire case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. Filing false inspection reports is fraud. Shutting off water to force an eviction is illegal harassment. You didn't just evict Mrs. Rodriguez, you terrorized her. This is outrageous. What's outrageous is that you've done this to 473 families, and this is the first time you've faced real consequences. I looked at Rosa Rodriguez. Tears were streaming down her face. Mrs. Rodriguez, you'll be back in your home within 72 hours. Mr. Castellano's company will pay for professional movers and will compensate you for any belongings damaged during the illegal eviction. She nodded, unable to speak. I turned back to Castellano one final time. You said everything is a game and you're good at winning. Let me tell you what you actually won today, Mr. Castellano. You won a criminal investigation. You won a reputation as someone who terrorizes elderly women. And you won a very expensive lesson about the difference between power and authority. I leaned forward. Power is what you have in the outside world. Your money, your buildings, your influence. Authority is what I have in here. And in this room, in my courtroom, your $6 billion couldn't buy you 30 seconds of authority. The gavel came down. We're adjourned. 3 months later, the district attorney filed charges. 12 counts of fraud, 37 counts of illegal eviction practices, and 1 count of criminal harassment. Castellano settled. $2.3 million to his victims, including full restoration of all evicted tenants who wanted to return. Rosa Rodriguez went home. Her grandson helped her move back in. The building is protected now, designated as historical housing, immune from the kind of predatory development Castellano specialized in, and Castellano himself. He never appeared in my courtroom again, but I'm told he warns his attorneys about me now, about the judge who doesn't understand how business works. He's right about one thing. I don't understand business that treats human beings as obstacles to profit. I don't understand wealth that sees an elderly woman's home as wasted real estate. What I do understand is this: justice doesn't care about your bank account. The law doesn't bow to your portfolio. And in my courtroom, the woman who's lived with dignity for 43 years has exactly the same value as the billionaire who's never been told no. That's not a nice sentiment, Mr. Castellano. That's the law. And unlike your buildings, it can't be bought.